My name is Lex, and you could call me a philosopher or even a guru because I teach people how to perform existential rehab on themselves. But I simply consider myself a communicator and a student in the art of living well in an unwell world. Welcome to my channel. What's happening, people? Welcome back. Welcome to salvation. Welcome to liberation, quite literally. If you listen to this entire video, you will soon, in a short order of time, understand why your psychiatrist can't help you, why your psychologist, therapist can't help you, why the guru on YouTube, why the philosophers haven't helped you, why your yogi, your bodhisattva, why the Buddha, no matter how right he was, cannot help you, why you have been unable to liberate yourself from the pain and suffering, why you struggle to lose weight, to make changes in your life, to be strong and move toward what you want and what you know to be right, why you struggle to let go of past transgression, suffering, pain, hurt, trauma, why you struggle to find a solid sense of self and identity that feels right and good, why you struggle to move away from religion and settle into spirituality in a sensible and intelligent fashion, why you struggle to reconcile the rational world of physics and science and logic and mathematics with the intuitive feeling of being a natural being, why you struggle quite literally. I'm going to explain why that is. And I'm going to tell you how to see everything, and you will be on your path. Maybe not all today, but in a short order of time. If it isn't done in this video, you will see how to find your way, and then you will be good. If you are not in bliss right now, you are off. You are wrong. You've done something wrong you don't understand. That will never change from my perspective. I don't experience anger. I don't experience suffering, although I may look angry and I may feel pain, but I'm always blissful. I'm always in knowledge. I'm always in understanding of what this is and what this isn't. And I'm going to make another statement that will explain how the world is screwed up. I will explain how the world is ruined by what you don't know, by what none of us know, what none of us have known, what none of us have understood, what even the greatest sages and yogis have yet to articulate in detail in the fashion that you've been willing to accept or listen to or acknowledge even. I'm going to let you know what the problem is. This isn't the truth. This is what is in the way of the truth, quite literally. Do not accept what I'm saying here as the end all be all. Point number one. Do not accept it as the truth. This is literally how to view things so that you can begin removing the obstacle to a better life, toward the life you want, toward truth and understanding, bliss and all of that. We are going to ruin the world. We're going to destroy everything, quite literally, because of this situation. We have infected ourselves at some point in history with a parasite in the mind. We've created and cultivated and sustained, quite literally, a mental living being that we mistake for us. That's simply because we don't have a model for us that's useful and workable when it comes to congruing the mental experience, the subjective experience of self with the physical experience of this existence. Are you the body? Well, there's no physical support for it. Philosophically, you can't be, really. Are you the mind? Well, how does that work when the mind can be altered, modified, and you remain? Like, well, what are we? What should we think of ourselves as? Well, let me explain. Let me explain what you should think of yourself as. You can see the mental body once I'm done with this. This is what you should understand. The mind is a physical thing. You are a physical thing in this description. Think of yourself as tangible objects, even though this will not be tangible. You have a mental body that you don't understand. You can see your objective physical body much easier, so it's easier to identify with that, but you don't know how to make sense clearly. No one does, of the mind, the mental realm. We don't know how to sort ourselves out and put ourselves back in order. So when you think about yourself, when you think about your existence, do not identify with your mind. You are not your mind. Do not identify with anything in your mind. It is bunk. It is a story. You have a limited brain, and a mind is a product, a symptom, seemingly an emergent property of that brain. You are not that. You are not it, because all of the happenings, the products, the goings on cannot be you, quite literally, based on this description, this model. This is just a tool. This thing that I'm giving you is just simply a framework to orient yourself until you can move past this. I do not view myself in this way. I do not view myself in this light. I do not view myself whatsoever. I simply work through things in a rough fashion akin to this model, but it must be detailed explicitly before it can be used. It must be built, erected, and then viewed, interpreted, understood before you can make effective use of it. So what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about 5 things, 5 aspects of you that you should consider. Should consider yourself to be none of them in the truest sense, but for this example, for this situation, to work your way toward liberation, to be free, to finally live the way you want to be okay once and for all. Think of yourself like this. You are awareness, quite simply and purely. You can modify yourself to shift your energy, your being, your body into a narrow point, which you will call attention. You are not the mind. Think of yourself in a voided realm, a blank black voided realm. You reside above this brain-mind mechanism in this model. The brain is down there. The mind is down there. And out in the periphery, you have your senses. And then deep below the brain and mind, and all deep down in the gut, where you feel intuition and navigation and tug and pull toward this and away from that, that is another source of information. So what we have is 3 physical aspects, in a sense, or 3 non-you aspects, and then 2 aspects of you. You have sensation, the senses, the body, the products of physicality. You have mentation, the symptoms, the resulting effects of the mind, thought, what you call thought, I should say. You have mentation, you have feelings, you have imagery, you have worded narration continually running in your head. And then deep below that, you have some type of natural, transcendental, intuitive compass guiding you. Well, all of this is information. It's presented to you as you are in awareness. You are awareness. In this example, you should identify with awareness. This is you. You are not the body. You are not the brain. You are not the mind. You are simply something that you know as awareness. From this vantage point, if you are aware of no thing, then there is nothing in your periphery, nothing in your vision, nothing in your experience, just pure existence and being. However, if something enters your sensor, your rain sensor, your light sensor, like spotlight or floodlight, I should say, of awareness, just a pure field of energy and beingness, let's call it that. If something enters into that, then you have an experience of that thing. Now, if you want to shift your energy toward it, to give it more validity, more realness, then you call that focusing your attention. That's your only ability in this life. That's the only thing you can do. Period. Quite literally. The only control, the only hope for free will, the only access to freedom you have is how you control the energy of the field of awareness, whether you allow it to be localized, focused into what we call attention and used vigorously, deliberately, directly, or whether you maintain a low energy state of a field, a spread, dispersed ground state of energy that we call awareness. It's the same thing, concentrated or field-like and dispersed. Awareness is field-like and dispersed, attention is concentrated. Well, what do? I'm awareness, and then I can shift my attention. Well, what power do I have over this environment, over this brain, over this mind, over these emotions of this life, of this being, what I seem like? Well, you have all the power in a sense, but also very little to none. So what we often mistake ourselves for doing is thinking continually. You do not think most of the day. You rarely think. Thinking requires energy. It requires intention, and it requires attention. You have to deliberately do something, or you're not thinking. Well, what is this noise running all the time in my head? Well, that's not thinking. That's called mentation. You mentate. That's what a brain does. Just like the senses sense, the mind mentates. It's mentation and sensation. That's what they do. They're continually presenting us with information as they do based on their mechanism, based on their design and their programming and their structure. So we're presented with imagery, worded, what we call thought, but worded mentation and emotion. Feelings are just feelings. They're physical more so, but they can turn into emotions and what have you. So in awareness, we are aware mostly directly of the mind because it seems to be right here. So when you position yourself in this model, position yourself somewhat, if not completely aloof, but not disconnected, above your mind. Position yourself above this brain mind mechanism in your mental imagery. If you can do this without aphantasia or something like this, if you can see this, picture yourself above it. Stand above this mechanism, this brain mind mechanism, until something warrants. You don't even have to be aware of it. It doesn't have to be in your awareness. But as soon as something is brought to you, which it will continually be brought to you by the brain mind mechanism, because what we need to understand is you will not stop mentating, just like you will not stop sensing. You will no longer hear the sound outside, but you're still able to interpret or at least capture the noise, the vibration, the sound waves. You've just lost awareness of it. Well, you'll still see the mentation. You'll still have that happening at a low level, but you can lose awareness of it, and therefore it does not exist to you. So when I say that I do not think, it means that I do not deliberately involve myself in my mind until I see something that warrants my involvement or something that I find interesting or desirable or pleasurable to do. It's an active thing. In the problem that we have in this life, the issue that we have is we don't know that. We don't know that we're essentially leaning on our mind. We're essentially leaning on the brain mind mechanism, feeding it, dumping energy into it, which is all we are. Consider yourself just energy. If you don't want to consider yourself awareness or attention, focused, laser-like awareness, just consider yourself energy, because effectively that's all it is. Well, when you're simply purely aware, you don't give energy to any particular thing. Things enter your awareness and you can be aware of them, but if you give them no energy, they will pass back out of your awareness unless they're so energetic of themselves that they force themselves into your awareness deeply. Like if someone comes in and starts banging pots, well, that is likely to force its way into your awareness through your sensation, through your ears and through your eyes as you view them banging pots. You won't be able to block that out. So you will be aware of that, but you don't have to give it attention. You can return back to your meditation, return back to your reading or your video game, and ignore this person if you can, and see that is something that is sensible to do. So when something enters your awareness, it is up to you. This is your power. This is your free will, your freedom, your choice in life. You either feed it energy or you don't. Well, since we don't know that it's us that's doing this, since we don't know our proper position to be above all of this, to be really disconnected in a sense of not aware of it, we will never be disconnected as long as we're living, hopefully, or we're in some type of ketamine, some K-hole. So, and even then you still have your mind, I believe. Never experienced that. But we're above it and we don't feel separate because we're always falling down into it. We fall down into the mind. We lean on it because it's the most apparent thing in our awareness. Do you understand me? The mind and its properties, its happenings, its resulting effects are the most apparent thing in our awareness because of the way we've evolved, the way we are. The senses are there, and if something is energetic or pertinent enough, well, oh, that's my car that just drove by. Well, now I'm paying that attention. It entered my awareness. Now I'm paying attention because that's my car. Well, that's the same thing with the mind. If something is pertinent enough or energetic enough, we should give it attention, and we will give it attention, but we shouldn't give attention to everything, just like we don't give attention to everything in our physical environment. We cannot and we should not. But because we are mostly mental creatures in a sense, we're not fully natural beings as the rest of the life on this planet seems to be. Our minds are so consuming in terms of energy and calories that they occupy a great deal of our self, of our awareness, if we're not careful. And there's a lot of interesting things in the mind. So there's a lot of things to be captivated by. And I'll explain why the mind is so interesting in just a second, which will get to the crux, the core of the issue in this world, and why you aren't able to be healed or helped by your guru or me or anyone else, or why you aren't able to help yourself or put things behind you or make changes. So because the mind is so apparent in our awareness, we lean on it, we look at it, we give continual attention to it, but not usually direct and deliberate attention. It's kind of like a pseudo mixed, half attentive, half aware state continually. Well, that's enough to feed the mind energy. Just like you can send energy if you think about your foot that got hurt, and that pain, the sensation will arise up and be stimulated more than it was previously. Well, you can stimulate things in your mind as well. And that's exactly what we're doing, exactly why you're worn out, why you always feel like you're thinking and you can't stop, because you're leaning on your mind, you're giving it attention. Stop, let those things be. Well, it's very hard to do, I know. But that's the situation. You're not thinking. You're just causing mentation. And what does that mentation do? What is the mind made for? Well, it's made to present us with things that we should be concerned about, look at, or consider. Well, that's all you do. They run across your vision like a ticker tape of potential actions, causes, and concerns, like a stock ticker symbol just running across. Well, it's up to you to decide what to invest in. Do you want to invest in everything? No, that's not intelligent. Everything cannot, you have a finite resource called energy and intention. You cannot invest in every stock, in every happening in your mind. So when we do this, when we give a little bit to each thing, we give it more life. It creates a reinforcing feedback loop in the mind. Oh, well, because the mind's waiting for us to, if you don't know that you're not the mind, you can't see this. The mind's just simply waiting for us to confirm reality, validity to things. It does not have perspective. We are that perspective on the mind. The mind does not have perspective to check itself. It can simply do as it does. It is locked. It is bounded by itself in its own reality. It can only see as far as it. We can see further. So the mind is simply waiting for us. It does not know we exist, I don't believe. Think of it like this, seriously. It does not know we exist. It's simply waiting for us to confirm or deny with attention whether something is valid, pertinent, and real enough. And if we don't make sure that we're very careful about not confirming and giving validity to things in the mind, we will make it real, and the mind will run back at some point, if not immediately, and return that back to us even more energetic. Like, see, look, this thing you were worried about, here it is again. What do you think? This is what I've done. I furthered it, I've moved it along, and this is what I'm presenting to you. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. What about this? What about this? Well, if you don't stop that, you'll feed more energy into that, and then you're in a trap. Now you're locked in your mind, being worn out and beat up and inundated by continual non-concerns that you've given validity and realness to, because you don't understand how to handle yourself. You don't understand your mental fitness, your mental body. You cannot right yourself mentally. You don't have mental health, quite literally. Almost no one on earth has mental health. So we're in a predicament where everyone's trying to help another person without understanding themselves. This is not how you should fundamentally understand yourself. There's a way to get past this truth where there is no story. This is just a story, but it's a model to begin writing yourself. We're in a world where everyone in mental health, everyone in psychology, psychiatry, social work, in the coaching and guidance and the philosophy and spiritual fields or what have you, is trying to help people. But you can't help a person that is literally creating their own issue. You cannot help a person unless you understand your own issue. So we have a bunch of people that don't understand themselves trying to help a bunch of people that don't understand themselves. And we wonder why the world is the way it is. Well, why is it really so bad? Well, let me explain. The parasite that I talked about. Let's just clarify this. You are above your mind and your brain. Let's double back before I go too deep so you understand exactly what I'm talking about here, so that this hits as it should, which should be hard, like a swoop, uppercut, a liver punch. Shoot, this should knock you out. You should see this. You are awareness. You are a field. You're an ocean. And in this great ocean, which contains no one, all you have is sensation bringing information to you about an environment external to you that says there's people, there's things, there's this. But in your own universe, which is what you have, there is just you. And you are the universe. You are the field of space-time. You are the field of energy called awareness. You exist. And somewhere below you, in front of you, what have you, there's a brain-mind mechanism. Out on your periphery, there are senses bringing information to you from beyond your universe. And deep below, deep at the bottom, in the gut of your universe, in the core, there is a seemingly uncheckable, infallible source of information about the state of your universe called intuition that is very difficult to hear and listen to because the mind is over it. And until you can quiet the mind, stop feeding it energy, let it settle down, the intuition is not going to be able to shout around it unless it does occasionally. But what we normally do is we miss the direct communication around the mind directly to us in awareness, and we only become aware of it after the mind becomes aware of it. And once it's a mental thing, it's no longer intuitive. It has lost its effectiveness. It's lost its value completely because we will operate mentally. And that's how we've built this world. That's how we've built our problem. That's how we built our lives. We've built a mental construct, a mental narrative about reality, about existence, about one another, about ourselves. This is all a story. This entire planet, everyone in it, everything we've thought in it, it's everything we've thought about it, everything we've seen, it's just a story. All of our institutions, all of our religions, all of our narratives, all of our deities, these are just stories. They're held in the mind. This is a tool. It is not you. What are you? If you can't move past what you're holding in your mind, you are screwed. Well, what are you? You are awareness. Really, you're no thing. No name can describe you. You have to become comfortable with the uncertainty and rest on that as I'm beyond description. I am beyond word, thought, imagery. I'm awareness at best. That's the best description we can have, because anyone that's gotten free of their mind for even a period of time knows that there's just awareness. You navigate, you can live like that. The mind will present something as needed, and the senses will too. They don't stop. They cannot stop. It is you that turns your mind away from the pain that you cause, the injury or whatever on your body, in your body, and stops feeding it energy, exacerbating the issue, the problem, the symptoms. It's you that stops feeding your mind energy by giving it your full attention or your partial attention, and stop wearing yourself out and sickening yourself and degrading your life and your experience with continual mentation that you can't see is not you, is not real. So that's what we have here. There is no real mind-body problem. You aren't the mind. You are awareness, and you have perspective on your mind. That is not you. You should feel aloof and somewhat disconnected from all those happenings. They're just possibilities. What about this? What about this? Nothing is actually true until you say it is. And whatever you give validity to will become true. So why is this even worse than I've described? Why does it seem like our issue is even worse than this? Well, because we have built a parasite in the mind. We have screwed ourselves up royally. And let me explain. So because we're social organisms, because we are this, what we have done, inadvertently, who knows from when, 10,000, 50,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, we started to track and cultivate. We started to cultivate a construct, a continual looping narrative of mentation built off memory in the brain about who we are, about what we are. And because we don't have perspective, we feed energy into these things. And the thing we feed the most energy into is the thing that is the most concerned to us, the things about us as individuals. What's good for us, who's messing with us, who's right for us, what we need, opportunities, threats, things like this. Because we have given so much energy and validity to this narrative, this mental ledger about us, we have created quite effectively a living being, a parasite, a mental parasite called a self, called a false you. And because you don't have perspective, because most of us don't, I'm not going to speak for you anymore, I'm sorry for being presumptive, but because most of us don't have perspective, what we do is we give continual energy reinforcing the validity of this narrative constructed self. And we can't see us in our proper position to see it as what it is, just mentation coming up. And therefore, we live as it lives, as it does. We live through it and further it. And now it's all about the mind. I mean, I don't say anyone is completely mentally bound, but most of us are mentally bound. So now it becomes all about the mind because that's you. What's said about this construct without perspective, while continually giving energy to this thing, is you. It strikes you. The mind says that's you being hurt. Just like the mind will say, man, somebody's coming in your house with a bulldozer. They're going to tear it. Well, that's something you should be concerned with. But you don't say, oh, how dare you do this to me because I'm such. No, you say, there's a dude with a bulldozer. Let's do something about this because they're going to tear our house down. Crazy example from a crazy dude, I guess. So the mind is supposed to alert us to things that are mental, that the senses will not. The senses will not see tax code. The senses will not see a legal transgression. The senses will not see a social transgression. They will need to inform the mind of this through the eyes and the ears and all of this in the brain. And then the mind will put together a picture and present it to us. Hey, you see them looking, hey, they're doing this, or hey, this or that, so we are supposed to be informed by the mind about things that are mental, things that require narrative, a story, things that cannot just be viewed and lensed with the auditory and the visual senses, or the tactile and the olfactory senses, the gustatory senses, or anything like this. So the mind does what it does, but if we don't have perspective, it seems like the things said about us is actually happening to us, as if the mind was saying, you're going to die. That's why letting go is so difficult. That's why becoming enlightened, if you would say, is so difficult. That's why moving past transgressions and hurt is so difficult, because it's you in there. The mind is saying, hey man, you're going to die. This is why I made the video before. I'm going to kill you. Quite literally. That's my goal, is to kill that thing in you that you think is you, to weaken it to the point to where it no longer has a hold on you, where you no longer move as it does, as it wants, as what's in its best interest, this narrative self, where you move in the best interest of whatever seems right to you from your proper vantage point and position and perspective, the true perspective, the one where you're using your senses and your intuition and your mind to find an experience of life that's right and true as you determine. You can't do that if you're only mentally motivated and programmed and primed, and you don't have perspective on this thing. Well, this is the problem with the world. We all have some notion, if we're healthy, of who we are to other people. Now, I don't believe that notion and narrative. I have no ability to believe in it. I have no ability to believe in any one of them. But I'm aware to a degree of what people hold in their mind about me. And I think it's laughable, but I'm aware. Now, what would happen to me if I thought that was real? If I thought what they were thinking about was true? Well, I would be burdened and slave to that as if it was my body. I would have to be someone that was so heroic or so brave that I could literally put my life in jeopardy, put myself in jeopardy to do what was right and needed. Well, that's going to be a great barrier or a great hurdle. I am not trying to be some mythical hero. That's too hard. I don't know if you're trying to move past these things. Make it easier on yourself. See that this is not about you. The things that people say and hold is not about you. They cannot know you. You're in a universe of your own. This is about the narrative itself. And if you live in it, if you cannot get distance from it, it will control you. It will become real. It will become living, and you will live for it. And the life that you experience will only be for a thing that never existed, a thing you built, sustained, constructed, and mistook for real and true. Well, when everyone has their universe with their narrative self in there, the fragile self, the one that's continually injured by things that aren't physical or tangible, things that do not hit you, things that cannot strike you, things said from people that do not know you. Well, if that's the way you live, well, then we're in a bad way in this world. We all have something, and if we don't have a handle on it, then we have to see at some point that they become completely untenable around one another, incongruent. You either have to be furthering or supporting someone's self, quite literally, or you're harming or destroying it. Well, now that we have so many different perspectives, so many different vantage points, a dissolving objective reality in the mental sense, institutions, states, nations, religions, all of this, well, now we have this freedom to modify, mold, and ourselves narratively are evolving and they're becoming incongruent. It's almost as if someone was literally not supporting your physical being. Like they kept stealing food from you, kept punching you and stabbing you and stuff. This is what it's like being around people that don't support and confirm your narrative self, or lo and behold, God forbid, that actually undermine it. Well, you can't be around those people. Those people are bad. They're enemies. They're a threat to your physical existence. They will not allow you to be good. You will always have to reinforce it for yourself and stave off the words, the imagery, the outside negative influence with all of your energy. Your whole life will be spent trying to feel good about something that quite literally isn't you. Your whole life will be spent trying to feel good about something quite literally that doesn't really exist outside of your mind, something that can be changed, modified, and altered. That cannot be you. This is not a ship. You're not Theseus. You are you. Your awareness, you're indelible. I don't know why I'm snapping. You're indelible. You're featureless. Everything else is in far second inferior subject to that. You experience a narrative self in this world, and it helps us relate and modify and work together and understand and come together and share things, I guess. That's what we've done. But when we mistake them, they take on a life of their own, and they're competing for realness and validity. And they're trying to make themselves real in this world, like Pinocchio. However, the way they're doing it is to build themselves up, to reinforce themselves with external realities, people, things, other narratives, awards, accolades, money, followers, supporters, worshipers, or what have you, until the entire reality confirms that it is real. Well, that will never happen. And if it even approaches happening on this planet, we're all screwed over in service of one person's self or a few people's self. So this is what I'm talking about. This is the beginning of the end. Everything that I say on this channel will be filtered for the time being through this model. The problem with the world, socially, identity, the identity crisis we're having. Who am I? What am I? Well, I want to be well, forget your identity. I give a damn about your identity. I think they all suck. How about that? They're all garbage. No one should tell you what it is. Quite literally, you should be free. No one should impose one on you or reject one that you're holding, because maybe you want to identify as this. In this world of labels, categories, contexts, and narratives and parameters, well, they have theirs, and that kind of puts you in one. Either you're one of the people that have none, or you're one of the people that have one in opposition to them. In either way, if people have one, you have one to them. So just best believe that you cannot escape this world of identity. As long as someone has one, everyone else has one. Well, there are the people that don't think they have one, or there are the people that are trying to tear mine down. So in this world of identity, it's nonsensical because they're incongruent. They do not gel, mesh, or support each other, and eventually they become threats to one another. So the continual reinforcement, challenging and championing, trying to push this identity forward, it's nonsense, and it's a bad way to go. I don't want to go on too long. I've gone on long enough. But I will filter everything through this. And like I said, this issue socially, if we're going to socialize, cannot maintain. We have to resolve this problem. You cannot resolve a bunch of incongruent universes together. You have to make them the same universe, which is a clear, pure, featureless, indelible universe. And then they can come together. Well, this one has this in it, and this one has this in it. They're a little bit different. They're a little bit distinct because we're in different perspectives. Poly-exclusion, we can't occupy the same space. We can't be the same person exactly, or we'd be having the same existence. There will be only one existence. So you cannot reconcile this social problem. It's only going to get worse. There's something to be said about this. Mental health. You cannot help a person feel good about itself that is always at threat, always needing reinforcement and support. Just move past it. See it for what it is. Quit trying to feel good about some bullshit. It's dumb. Let it go if you can, but it'll feel like death, which is why I say I'm going to kill you. If you listen long enough, you will learn how to end that and be free. You will learn how to move past it, and it will not be easy, but it will be much easier if you have perspective. Because what I'm going to tell you I said all of this can be made easier by weakening that self, that narrative. You weaken it because you are the one that built it. You weaken it by giving attention to things that are more true, more valid, more real. They undermine what's being held in the mind, the brain-mind mechanism, and then the self starts to morph and change. And eventually, if you do this well enough, the self that you've built, the narrative, the thing that's trapping you, oh, I feel low, I feel blue, I feel whatever the hell your issue is, your predicament, your challenge, they did this to me. They didn't do anything to you. Something happened and you took it on personally. That ain't got nothing to do with you. I understand you don't feel supported. It's lonely in this world. It's a lonely existence. We're in universes, islands of our own. And we will not be able to bridge that gap. I'll get back to my point. We will not be able to bridge that gap until we see clearly. So we're going to be alone until we move past it. And then we can have companions and friends like, oh my God, you're human, you're existing, whatever you are, wonderful. You have a story, it's not congruent or compatible with mine. I don't care. They don't need to be, because I don't believe in mine fundamentally and truly in that sense. And if yours is working for you, that's fine. But as long as we understand that we're just beings existing awareness or whatever, it's fine. So what was my point originally? This moving past this is challenging. You cannot move past. Yeah, here's what I was saying. You feed the mind better information and it undermines that narrative self. It's very difficult to feel good about a thing that you know deep down isn't you, isn't true, isn't real, and that is always at threat and being challenged by better information and other people's perspectives. You aren't going to do it. You shouldn't be trying to feel better about yourself. So what is your therapist or your counselor or your guru or whoever really going to help you with? And I don't mean spiritual guru, someone's trying to help you in this. But what are they going to help you with? What are they going to help you with? How are they going to help you? How are they going to do this? It can't be done. It's a lifelong process of fuckery, quite literally. It's a lifelong process of delaying and foregoing mental health and just coping, never being healthy, never being free to move on with it. You have to accept that at some point these people do not know what they're talking about. They should be able to put you right and heal you just like a physical doctor does. Either you have something that's so damaging that you will never be healed, but even then you accept that that's the state and you move forward with those conditions. Well, that's never the truth with the mental realm. This modified drug, do this therapy. None of it works until you have a handle on yourself, until you see yourself clearly. None of it works because no one can make you feel right about a false thing. None of it will work. And let's go on and go to the spiritual, philosophical, transcendental state. How's Sadhguru or Muji or Rupert Spira or Adyashanti or what is his name? I'm really liking him. Nisargadatta, really liking that dude right now. How are these people going to help you when they're trying to kill you? How am I going to help you when I'm trying to kill you? Well, I'm telling you what I'm going to do. They're literally trying to kill what you feel like is you. You've given validity and realness to it. How are they going to, matter of fact, how are you going to do that? It's untenable. You have to be in such a state. You have to be where I was. I'd already weakened the self. However, I had destroyed the self. I destroyed the concept. I was only in truth without quite literally knowing truth directly. So take me off the table. I was in a different state. I was already there. I was my own jnana yogi or jnani yogi. In a sense, I brought myself there intellectually to know selfness, but I had not experienced truth transcendentally. So I don't know how you're going to do this. And when I did experience truth transcendently, maybe there was some remnant of self still remaining, and I'd been in such a predicament that I was like, let me see this. I need to know truth. I cannot move forward. Let me see. Let's let it go. And I let it go because my life had brought me to that state and that condition. Unless you're in that state and that condition where death is a gamble worth risking to see and know something, unless you really want to know something that bad, unless you are truly a luster after knowledge and truth, you aren't going to risk it. Unless you're suffering so bad that you can't almost stay in existence, you aren't going to risk losing existence. So you're screwed, you're stopped, you're stuck, you're done already. You're already done. And that's the truth of it. We are in a pickle. We have billions of lies and stories and parasites mentally occupying people's minds. This will be the end of us, and not necessarily the way we want. We cannot combine and congrue a bunch of competing falsehoods. It's impossible. The only thing you can do, in my opinion, is to build a structure, a system, effectively a matrix, to support and effectively administer to a group of incompatible things. They cannot work together, so you have to build something to take care of them individually because they cannot do it together. Well, that's inhuman. We've become kept animals, kept things. That's not us, that's the end of us. This is the beginning of the end of you. I promise you. But let me know what you think. YouTube. This is a different chapter for me. This is a different chapter for everything. I see things. There's no more time. There's no more play. This is serious. This is serious. But also not, because I also understand the truth. One that I hope that you get to as well, which kind of makes all of this funny in another sense. Duality, I guess, whatever you want to call it. I hope this helps a little bit. This is just the beginning, but you need to filter and interpret everything I say from this point forward through this model. You really do. You need to understand everything that I'm saying through this model, or it will not make sense. Your awareness, you have three concerns: intuition, sensation, physicality, physical beingness, and mentation, brain, mind. And you have two things you can do. You can be, feel like pure, unadulterated, completely dispersed, energetic, in a sense, energetically. And you can be awareness. That's awareness. Or you can be focused. You can focus that and be attentive. And that's how you move yourself. That's how you change things, by giving validity and realness to the things that you want, by feeding your mind. And it takes time. You have to unseat what's been seated and reseat or seat new and better. And over time, you can change the motivations of the mind, the target, the aims, the inclinations, and the desires of the mind. You don't wrestle hold of it with attention, because that's limited. You want to change it fundamentally so that you can remain in a blissful state above it, peaceful, at rest, in awareness, and experience this life and existence in a way that you can't even comprehend right now. You can't even comprehend it right now. But I thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for listening. Let's go. I'll see you on another video. I wanted to get these two out because this is really important. And I have a couple of videos that I owe. And I have a couple of things that I'm putting together on my website that will offer up a text-based and visual-based explanation of a lot of this. Something to follow, something to dive into, something to go deeper into. Because not everyone is a video learner. Some people want to stare at it and repeat it and read it and have it tangibly. So I have a lot to give, trust me. And I have a lot to say. Not really, but I have a lot of ways to say effectively the same thing that will sound like a lot of different things about a lot of different things, which it will be about a lot of different things. But there's a way to explain all of this, how we've screwed up, how we aren't able to get right, why we aren't able to get right, and what to do about it. And it's really beginning with this. Your guru cannot help you. Your psychologist, your psychiatrist cannot help you. Nothing can help you until you learn how to handle yourself, until you learn your mental body. Till you learn your body, in a sense. You have a body, you have sensation, you have a mind, and you have intuition, and you have awareness and attention. Those are your tools. Those are your tools. That's you. That's your power. You got to use it wisely. We have not been taught this. Not widely. Not wisely. And one thing that I don't really hear anyone talking about is the predicament, the obstacle, the concrete, brick, marble, lead wall of an obstacle that is destroying and eliminating and killing something that feels like us. Don't expect people to be enlightened overnight or awakened, or don't expect people to move toward mental health in a sufficient time period that leaves them enough life to enjoy being healthy. Don't expect people to spend a year or two in Buddhism and Hinduism and be fine and to be able to right themselves from that point forward. They're going to sit there for 5, 10, 15, 20 years until they just get so tired and weak that they just give up. That's what I've seen in many cases, in a lot of cases, and it seems like, oh, well, I'm just not deep enough. No, you can get there a lot quicker. Trust me, if you do this right, and I'm going to help you. And I don't mean just enlightenment or spiritual. I mean just feeling good, being free enough to see what's right for you, and being free enough to do what's right for you. That's what I'm talking about. But I will see you in another video. Let me know what you think about these. I hope these 2 videos, I hope this video especially is helpful, and I believe it will be. So this is the beginning. I hope to see you on another one. You have a great day. Take care.